Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Mindset Elevation Coach and Intentional Living Guide, Linda Joy, also the publisher of the beloved Aspire magazine. I don't know about you, but are you feeling called to gather in circle with women interested in personal and spiritual development? Are you yearning to nourish your soul, elevate your mindset, and transform your life? Well, I have exciting news for you, my beautiful friend. On April 11th and 12th, 2026, I am bringing to life the Inspired Life Women's Weekend of Love, Light, and Laughter. 2 days of all about nourishing your soul, tapping into topics that can empower you and living your best life. We have over 50 workshops waiting for you, my friends, a divine marketplace, a pamper room, a reader's lounge. It'll be held in beautiful Quincy, Massachusetts. If you'd like the details as all this unfolds, go to inspiredlifeevent.com. Get on the VIP wait list for tickets. And in case you're interested, we do have some exhibitor placements in our Divine Marketplace still available at this time of this taping. Again, that's inspiredlifeevent.com. Well, let's dive in today. And I have a question for you, my friends. A couple questions, actually. Do you sometimes sense that there's this deeper wisdom within you that's being drowned out by the noise of everyday life? Do you second guess your decisions, wondering if you're making the right one or going in the right direction? Well, you're in for a special treat today, my friend. Intuitive teacher Gwyneth Flack is here today to show you how to integrate your intuitive abilities, yes, you have them, into your daily life to align with a life of purpose, empowerment, and joy. And I'm so excited because Gwyneth is going to be a speaker and exhibitor at the Inspired Life event. Gwyneth is the author of Limitless, Transform Your Life with Intuition and Creativity. And I'm honored that I got to choose Gwyneth's new book for the top 10 inspirational books list at Aspire magazine. It is such a divinely aligned topic for our audience. She is a transformational teacher and coach and passionate about helping people tap into their intuition, align with clear decision making, heal their lives, and cultivate deeper, more fulfilling relationships. Since 2007, Gwyneth has empowered thousands of professionals through private sessions and courses, offering beginner to advanced intuitive development tools to help people thrive and become more grounded in today's fast-paced world. As you're going to discover, she has a unique ability to bridge the gap between intuition and everyday life. She specializes in guiding others to uncover their innate gifts, reduce self-critical thinking, we can all use that, my friends, and foster a life of harmony and purpose. Welcome, Gwyneth.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Well, I am holding your book in my hands, and as I shared, I am thrilled that you're also going to be one of our esteemed speakers at the Inspired Life event, because your topic, it's so important. Your book, again, is called Limitless, Transform Your Life with Intuition and Creativity. And something that I mentioned in the bio about the reduced self-critical thinking, I think so many of us are struggling with that. So we will bring that up in the conversation. So let's talk about what led you to write this book, because it's has so much empowering information and practices in it, And I'm curious, I always love asking authors, like, what led you to say, this is the book that's meant to be birthed through me?
That's a great question. And yes, so after teaching for many years, 18 years or something like that, I noticed that there were certain patterns that people run into when they go to develop their intuition. And so the students that would come to me and the clients that come to me, they have very well developed intellects, and they're very creative, and they're also extremely intuitive because we're all innately intuitive. But then I would notice that they would often run into the same stumbling blocks again and again. A new student running into the same stumbling blocks, or a new client but running into the same stumbling blocks. So I thought, why don't I write a book that really just breaks it down in a really simple way and lets people really kind of have like a all access backstage pass, if you will, to the intuitive mind and the intellectual mind and the creative mind, and how they all work together, and how those three parts of ourselves, our learned knowledge or intellectual knowledge, and our innate intuition and our creativity, which is also innate, they're really supposed to be a team. But what happens is that we end up just, because of the way our culture is and our school system is, we really just overdevelop the intellectual part of ourselves, and underdevelop the intuitive part of ourselves. And also our creativity often gets left by the wayside. And so basically, I created a spiritual toolbox, if you will, of intuitive tools that build on one another and help people to get more grounded so they can handle the energy of the world and tap into their intuition. And becoming more grounded actually really helps us to be more connected to our, not just to our bodies, but to our inner guidance.
Gwyneth, I love that you brought up about being grounded. How do we recognize when we are ungrounded? Because I talk to so many people and they're not sure what it means. What would you say to that?
I think that is such an important question. One way to tell is, let's say you're at a meeting or something like that, or at a party, and somebody's talking to you, or you're standing and sitting with a group, and suddenly you space out and you completely miss what was said. And that happens to everyone. That is a great way to tell that for a moment you were ungrounded, or maybe longer than that. Or another example is if you're driving a car, and let's say it's a route that you do all the time, and you've been driving for like 10 or 15 minutes, and you suddenly realize that you don't remember the drive. You've just been on automatic. And every person I've ever worked with, and myself included, of course, all of us have had that experience. And so those are two examples of being ungrounded. And when we start to notice when we're ungrounded, when we lose our space or space out, or miss things with our awareness, then we can come back and become grounded again. So really, the practice of, even as we start to recognize when we've lost our space or become ungrounded, that's really helpful. Just noticing that helps us to become more and more grounded more often, because so often, just like you said, we don't know exactly what it means to be grounded. But we certainly have all had the experience of taking a hike, or a really nice long walk along the beach or something like that, or a hike up a mountain, how good it feels to be in our bodies. And it means that we, as the soul that we are, or as the light that we are, it means that we're embodying and owning our space. We're connected to our senses, and our bodies really love to be grounded, because it kind of dysregulates our nervous system when we're not in our bodies. And so as soon as we start to ground ourselves, it actually immediately starts to calm down our nervous system. And then it makes it easier to access our feelings or our certainly our inner guidance, our intuition. It's easier to access it because we're being present. And so I practice grounding every day. I mean, when I was a child, I was very ungrounded, actually. I was often off daydreaming, my head was off in the clouds and I didn't really know what it meant to be grounded. So I completely understand what it's like to not be grounded. And it's really a practice that we cultivate. So it's like a work in progress because really as soon as when we become sometimes overwhelmed or stressed or fearful, a lot of times what happens is it's kind of like fight or flight. Like we tend to go with the flight. We tend to kind of leave, if you will. We might kind of leave mentally or leave kind of emotionally, but really it's this experience of becoming ungrounded. And so that's why when I become overwhelmed or stressed or something like that, the first thing I'll do is really just say hello to my body and find my grounding again. And then I feel like all of a sudden, when I'm in that space, then I become centered in my awareness. And that's really the goal, is we want to be centered in our own awareness.
I love how you described it. And I can relate to you as a child because I was that way myself too, that always say, hello, Earth to Linda. So I think this is such an important conversation. We're going to take our first break and we will be back in a moment to continue this inspired conversation with Gwyneth Flack, author of Limitless, Transform Your Life with Intuition and Creativity. You can learn more at gwynethflack.com. We'll be back in a moment.
Beautiful soul, are you craving a soul-nurturing community of women interested in personal and spiritual development? You're not alone. When you step onto the virtual campus of Inspired Living University, a sacred community and curriculum for women on the path of self-discovery, you become a soulful part of our high-vibe family of women where you can grow, learn, and be reminded of your truth and power. Along with 2 mindset elevation circles each month with founder Linda Joy, you receive on-demand access to a sacred curriculum that includes a library of personal and spiritual development classes led by leading luminaries on topics that support you in living your most magical and intentional life. These high-value master classes are just the beginning of your transformational journey. Step into the circle today at inspiredlivinmuniversity.com/sacred-invite.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm here with Gwyneth Flack, author of Limitless. She's a transformational teacher and coach, passionate about helping people tap into their intuition, align with clear decision making, and so much more. Right before the break, we were talking about how to recognize when we're ungrounded. And you gave such perfect examples. So I'm curious, how does grounding support our intuitive connection?
Yes. So when we're ungrounded, it can be hard it's like we're trying to, let's just say, remotely fly the plane kind of thing. It's much easier to really be in charge of the direction that we're going in, to be aligned when we really have that ownership of our space. And so that's really a great starting point. A lot of times we go looking for intuitive guidance everywhere. We might be looking outside of ourselves and almost like leaving our space to go try to find the answers, but really we have all the answers. And we're trained by society to always look for the answers outside of ourselves. And so So really, when we just say hello to that, we do have the answers, but we want to become present in the moment. And so becoming grounded is becoming present, and that keeps us really aligned with our intuition, which can only be in present time because we have our past experiences, and those have given us life, experience and wisdom and things like that. But where our intuition is right in that moment as we're asking, and we're asking for the next step. So often we don't have to know the answers way out ahead of ourselves. We just need to know the next step. And so becoming grounded and present really just helps us to see what's available and tap into all those amazing inner resources that we have, our creativity and the inner wisdom that's just so incredible, and the power that we have that's within us. So often we sort of underestimate our power, but when we're present in the moment, we can live in our power really and express ourselves from that beautiful power, which really is our love.
I love that. It is our love, isn't it? It's like that pure alignment with, I
Yeah.
think, for myself, I say the pure alignment with all that is, whatever word we all use to describe I call it source of love, God,
Mm-hmm.
first divine. And I love that you brought creativity up because for me, like all my businesses, um, others see them as businesses, but I actually see them, they're just my creative outlets of service. And so, where others may paint, which I did paint for 30 years, um, my intuition and creativity are almost like they're enmeshed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, let's talk about that, how intuition and creativity actually work together, because I know what it feels like in my body because I've been doing combining them, and it's how I navigate life. It's actually, I breathe that way. I can't imagine any other way. But for those who don't understand how they work together, how would you explain it?
Well, it's interesting, yes, because when I was a child, I was always so creative, and then I was always super, super sensitive on an intuitive level. So I always just had just loads of creativity and loads of intuition, even if I didn't really recognize how intuitive I was back then. But really, we're creative beings. As humans, we are creative beings, and our creativity is limitless. There's so many different ways to express our creativity, and our intuition is there to guide our creativity in the most aligned way, because we could, in some cases, with our creativity, we could get sidelined. Maybe we're following a direction that's not that aligned for us. Sometimes it could be something like, okay, yeah, that's not a bad thing to be doing, but in actuality, our best use of our creativity might be in a slightly different direction. Other times, sometimes we put our creativity into worrying, or we put it into some kind of drama, or we put it into trying to fix something or someone that where it's not really aligned for us to be doing that. And so that's why when I say our intuition is there to guide our creativity, it's because really we have a choice. And the more we consciously develop our intuition, then we can consciously develop our incredible creativity, like our creative power. It is just that, it's creative power. And so our intuition wants to guide us in every moment toward greater self-love, toward fulfilling our purpose as a soul. I like to say purposes because, we really, we really have more than one purpose. We have incredible purposes. And so if we allow and give space, I like to use the word spacious orchestration, if we allow for that spacious orchestration to happen, then we're guided in a direction where I say orchestration because everything can be more orchestrated by spirit, um, or that which gives all, however you might talk about it, whatever words you might want to use. But when we, and spacious orchestration is a receptive space, and it's also a creative space. It's where we're really synced up and aligned so that we're being supported in the most aligned way for us. And we're also following and listening to our inner guidance or intuition, whatever you want to call it, so that everything can come together. And I think everyone at some point in their lives, maybe it happens to the listener, every once in a while, or maybe you feel like it happens more often than that, or every, 5 years, whatever it you might notice in your life, you have had that incredible experience of spacious orchestration where everything just synced up and was aligned, and you were able to move in this beautiful energy that's both receptive and active and creative to
Oh my God.
fulfill your purposes.
Yeah, and I love that you said purposes because I've had many in my lifetime. And I think there's a lot of confusion about that you have one life purpose. We're going to take our next break. Let's talk about that because I'd love to have your insights on a deeper level. We'll be back in a moment, my friends. I'm with Gwyneth Flack. Learn more about all her sacred offerings at gwynethflack.com. And of course, grab a copy of her book, Limitless. We'll be right back.
Coaches and aspiring guides, this is your time to increase your income and help clients experience real soul-aligned breakthroughs. Become a certified Life Purpose Prosperity Soul Guide and learn how to help clients embody their elemental astrological archetypes for heart-aligned success, creating lasting shifts they'll deeply value and happily share. This nature-aligned certification provides you with practical tools to support your client's unique purpose and prosperity pathway, opening up powerful new ways to expand your business and increase your income. Lisa Michaels, creator of the Life Purpose Prosperity Blueprint, with over 30 years of proven results, personally mentors you through this dynamic system, grounding cosmic wisdom in earth-honoring leadership practices. Watch a free masterclass revealing how this sacred strategic work can elevate your offerings and your impact. Visit lisa-michaels.com/soulguide to explore your expansion opportunity today.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Thank you for circling up with me today and my special guest, Gwyneth Flack. So, Gwyneth, you said something that really spoke to me because you kept clarifying purposes. And when I was younger, I remember going, I don't know my purpose. What's my life purpose? As if it's one. And I struggled with that for a long time, thinking I was failing at my purpose. Now, for myself, I feel like we're always uncovering and doing this internal work that helps us define our purposes. When I look back at 63 years old that I am now and look back and go, I've had many purposes, let me clarify, aligned purposes over the last, I'd say, 25 years especially. And each one led me to a more expanded purpose. Does that resonate with how you process it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we have so many purposes, and oftentimes we don't even give ourselves credit because we're so often given the messaging by society that our purpose has to be something really big that's really recognizable from the outside. And sometimes people live their whole lives without realizing how much they have contributed in really incredible and amazing ways in the world because they didn't realize that they had special skills and abilities that they were using already that they just didn't give themselves credit for. They didn't recognize what a difference they made in a whole community just by shining their light, just by being who they are and being in a giving space and giving back in certain ways. And they may have just been thinking about all the different examples that we have out in the world of people that have made it kind of, big time, the big sort of achievers. And so I think it's really nice to notice the ways that we are already fulfilling our purposes, and also at different times in our lives we have different purposes that are really aligned. Like it may be that we have a child or a couple of kids, and that's really what our focus needs to be for a little while. And then from that evolves our next purpose, which is something that may be quite different than that, or an expansion of that. And so I think that it's a matter of really recognizing what really aligns for us, where we can use our skills, our innate skills and our learned skills, and then what gives us that feeling of joy. A lot of times, even if our purpose is really challenging, because I mean, all of us have many challenging parts to our lives or our work, but a lot of times we'll recognize the joy that it brings us, and we can know, wow, maybe this is really significantly part of my purpose, one of my purposes, because it brings me this feeling of joy, this feeling of enthusiasm, and other kinds of really beneficial feelings that when we recognize it, we can start to uh, go deeper, go deeper into that purpose.
I love that. It mirrors my world, the way I've navigated my world and how I come to understand purpose. And I love how you shared like different chapters in our life where we're aligning with different purposes, and you used a beautiful example. Here's something else too. I'm curious in your work that with what you do you come across a lot of women who identify either as empaths, healers, highly sensitives? Because if we're talking about energy and grounding, let's bring them into the conversation, because I have a large audience that will resonate with that. So, does your audience also identify that way quite
Oh,
often?
yes, very much so. Definitely empaths and healers and sensitives. They're all people, regardless of what their work background is and their professional training and all that, they're all incredible healers, and they're all incredibly sensitive. And that's really a superpower. That's
Yeah.
really so valuable and important, because we're taught to just, we're taught through our schooling system and our professional training a lot of times just to see on a surface level. But people who are sensitives and empaths, they're tuning into really what's going um, on a deeper level. And so it's really a question of learning how to manage it, and recognizing when we start to carry around the weight of the world, quite literally, as energy. Because what happens is, as when we don't recognize how intuitive we are, and we're really sensitive, and we're a healer, and a healer, of course, what that means is that you care deeply about the well-being of humanity, and not just humanity, of course, but animals and the earth and all of it, right? You're here to make the world a better place. So everyone listening is interested in this conversation because they are that person out there serving in some way in the world. But what happens is we're walking around out in the world, and we're like a sponge, and so we're picking up on emotions from the world around us, or energies, feelings and thoughts, and energy that's not ours, that's out in the world. So we might start out the day feeling pretty fresh and perhaps enthusiastic, and we have some ideas about what we want to create and do. And then maybe just through by the end of the day, we might be feeling fatigued, even though there's really there's no physical issue going on with us, or we might feel stressed, or we might feel guilty or overwhelmed or fearful. And that's what we pick up from the world around us. And so one of the really important, another reason I think why I wrote my book is because I really wanted to help people to be able to more clearly distinguish between what is their true energy and what's not their energy. What did they pick up from the world, and how do they recognize that they've been carrying that around? Because the moment that we recognize, oh, I'm carrying around some energy that's not mine, that I picked up, whatever, at the grocery store or at work or whatever it might be. And the moment we release that, we have more space to be. We have more alignment with that spacious orchestration I was talking about. We have more awareness of what we're here to do. We just feel better too. And so I really wanted to help people, those healers and empaths and sensitives, to be able to recognize when they start to carry the weight of the world and how that can affect them. So that's a very freeing moment when we recognize that, we let go of some of that, we let it go, and then we really can have more of our own space to be in the world.
Oh, I love this conversation because a lot of my clients, a lot of the women in my community identify this way. And I always talk about, listen, we clear our physical bodies all the time. We clean our physical bodies and we have hygiene, but we forget about our spiritual and energetic health. And the energy that we're picking up from others as a sensitive, it can become overwhelming, as you know, because I identified that way too. And so understanding how it's not always ours, right? When you can have that awareness that it is not always ours, that we don't need to carry it. As you said, it's empowering. And also, I don't you think too, is once you get that awareness and learn to decipher what's yours and what's not, it's almost like it not only heightens your intuition, but it makes you feel so much more empowered to know that you can clear your energy. You can identify what's no longer yours to carry. I think it helps us in the way that we show up with authenticity in the world as who we truly are instead of who we need to think we need to be.
Oh, that's such a great point. I love that, because the more we're carrying around energy that's not ours, the more we're following directives that's in that energy, saying do this, or saying, oh, you have to be perfect in all these different ways, or you have to fulfill this obligation, that kind of thing. It can be very, very subtle. Otherwise, if it wasn't subtle, we would notice it. So often it's subtle, and yet it's like night and day when we start to recognize just even a little bit of it and just start to release it. We have more freedom. We have more range of mobility, you might say, like range of movement as a spiritual being. And so it impacts us in beneficial ways on emotional levels, mental levels, physical, spiritual. So it's really about learning how to manage our energy, because we're just not taught that. We should be taught that from day one in kindergarten. Wouldn't that be an amazing world? And maybe that will be the world someday, but but
I
it's
love
not.
that vision, especially with two grandchildren now. One's 13 and one's a grown man. He's 25. Both sensitives, both creatives, both empaths. And, thankfully, I believe they were placed in my life to be their guide to help them understand energy and autonomy and all these healing, beautiful rituals they can do every day to clear what they picked up during the day. We're going to take our final break, Gwyneth. I just love this conversation. And we'll be right back, my friends. Learn more about Gwyneth and the work she's doing in the world. And, of course, grab a copy of Limitless. Transform your life with intuition and creativity at gwynethflack.com. And as always, my friends, whatever platform you're listening on, you'll find all her details in the section below. We'll be right back.
We can all use a little more peace and joy in our lives. Don't you agree? Counselor, best-selling author, and self-nurturing expert Kelly Grimes of cultivatingpeaceandjoy.com is passionate about empowering overwhelmed and exhausted women to live with more peace, joy, and meaning through the practice of self-nurturing. Through her experience working with individuals, speaking, providing workshops, and teaching professional and leadership development to forward-thinking organizations, Kelly knows that nurturing peace in the world begins from the inside out. That's why she created the free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app that brings you beautiful self-nurturing reminders, guided meditations, empowering practice tools, and daily prompts with an inspiring question to guide your daily self-nurturing practice. Download your free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app today at cultivatingpeaceandjoy.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I am so excited that you're circling up with us today because we're talking about intuition, creativity, energy, grounding, and so much more. All important topics in today's world. We need to come back into alignment with the truth of who we are, how we're wired, so we can be the light that the world needs right now. So in our last segment, I want to talk a little bit about balancing giving and receiving, because I know in my younger years, I gave so much. And of course, it was coming from wounded places at the cost of myself. And I lost myself in my 20s and 30s, thinking my identity is what I gave to others, but I never allowed myself to receive, which of course is a story in itself, right, of those wounds. So why is it so important to balance our inner space within between giving and receiving?
Yes, I love that you're bringing this up because I used to give it all away too. And I would say, even through my 20s, I mean, through my teens and my 20s, it took me quite some time to realize I didn't realize how much I was giving away. And I think that's part of it too, is that especially as women, we're just programmed from day one to just give it all away. And as healers, we feel like we have so much to give and we overgive and we forget because we really live in such a the sort of do energy of the world. We grow up in this world pretty much, all of us do, and we're just trained to keep doing. And so we're not taught that we need to also allow the space to receive. And of course, receiving that beautiful sort of divine feminine energy, we balance it with the masculine energy. So it's this beautiful balance that we're meant to have, rather than just the do kind of energy that we end up really being in. But the when we're in that receptive energy, when we balance it, that's also our intuition is very receptive. And so we want to be receptive to receive answers, to receive access to our own most powerful inner guidance. And so it really helps when we can create a pause for ourselves and just slow it down and tap in to that part of ourselves that really just needs a hello, like a spirit to spirit hello, so that we start to bring that receptive balance into all the doing. And sometimes we need to work that a little from the outside. We need to just set some boundaries and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to have a tea break, and that tea break's going to be 20 minutes long, and I'm going to sit in a chair and I'm going to just get grounded and just quiet my mind. We might bring it in like a practice like that, but we can also think of it as an energy space, giving and creating an energy space that's as big as the doing space that we're already so good at.
Beautifully said, my friend. One of the things I always see and I use because it played an important part of my life is the infinity symbol, right?
Mm.
So I teach abundance activation rituals and mindset strategies in a lot of my communities. And because so many people are visual like me, I said to them, listen, the divine gave us a symbol. It's the infinity symbol. And when we pinch off any part of that, and usually it's about receiving, isn't it? We can give, but it's hard for us to receive. So I told them, if you look at the infinity symbol, it can only work when there's an even energy flowing in and out, giving and receiving. If you're crimping it in any place, whether it's the giving or receiving side, then you're stopping the natural flow of everything, intuition, creativity, abundance, etc. And I said, when there's I call it a glitch in the matrix, glitch in your energy matrix, you will feel stuck and stagnant. And that's helped me show them, whether the conversation is about abundance, relationships, it doesn't matter. Energy is energy, right? And it has to be free flowing. So do you agree that it has to be this like give and take? It's like life.
Hmm.
Does that resonate with you on that, with the visual of the infinity symbol?
Yes, 100%. So often we wonder, when it comes, we're trying to manifest something, we're trying to create something, and we don't understand why it's not showing up. And without that receptive space, without finding that balance, that beautiful flow, as you're describing of the infinity symbol, without being able to open up for that flow to really happen in both directions, it can be really hard to create or manifest what we want. In some way, we can be blocking it, like it's like if our hand is closed, we can't receive, right? We want to receive with
Yeah.
an open hand. And so if we're just standing there with a closed hand and somebody's throwing us the basketball or something like that, we can't catch it, and when it comes. And so we want to remember to be in that space of giving to ourselves, because it's also a giving space. The receiving space is a giving space. Um we're in a giving energy, giving to ourselves and not just putting it all out, but standing there with a closed hand, if you will.
Exactly. And I think, I know it's a conversation for another day. We only have a couple minutes left, but trust plays in that too, doesn't it?
Oh,
We,
yeah.
I had to, because of childhood stuff, I didn't have trust in my younger years. I maybe thought I did, but looking back, I can see I didn't. And it wasn't until I started building my trust muscles with my intuition, with my ability to receive, to give freely. Trust played a major part. I had to learn how to trust myself, my source, life, and we'll have to talk about that another day, my friend. But I have loved this whole conversation, and I want to invite everyone to go to gwynethflack.com. Grab a copy of Limitless, Transform Your Life with Intuition and Creativity. It's all about breaking free from old patterns that keep you playing small, how to ground yourself amid chaos, which we talked about today, and we really need that. And that's important because you want to be able to make better decisions. You'll also learn how to harness your natural, and yes, you do have them, intuitive abilities for practical everyday success. And, we're always in relationship, whether it's with a partner, co-workers, everyone we meet. So how to navigate relationships with newfound clarity and compassion. And I have the book in my hand actually, and I got to say, you want to grab a copy. So again, visit gwynethflack.com, stay connected with her, follow her on social media. And in our last couple moments, Gwyneth, is there another piece of wisdom, inspiration, or a strategy that you want to share to close our conversation with?
Yeah, there's so much that I could say, but if there's one thing I could say, it's that now more than ever in the world that we're living in, give yourself a lot of love. It's so important. Self-love is so important. You can just visualize it as a quality or an energy that you're just giving yourself and replenishing your well, because when you're in when you're just giving yourself self-love as an energy, you're really unstoppable. And it's just a beautiful energy to be able to navigate this crazy world that we're living in, and be able to handle the energy that's out there in the world if we're in that space of self-love.
Mm, I can feel that. Isn't that a desire we have for everyone to be able to feel self-love, acceptance, be able to trust in our own selves, our own dreams, our own visions? Thank you for adding to this conversation today, Gwyneth. I'm so glad that you're here with me, and I can't wait to meet you in person in April at the Inspired Life event. Again, everyone, that's inspiredlifeevent.com. The website will be unfolding. Get on the VIP attendee list so that you know when the tickets go on sale at the early bird rates later this year. Gwyneth, thank you, my friend.
Thank you. It has been a delightful conversation. I'm so grateful that you had me on your beautiful show.
Thank you, my friend. And until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.